New York Times. But as I'm reading it yesterday, what was amazing to me was how there's the doom and gloom in the paper is staggering to me, only because everybody was in denial. And now all of the things that we've talked about are happening. And there is no one who wants it to happen less than me. Because while this is new to so many reporters and economists and everything else, I've been wargaming this one in my head for 2 years, over 2 years. And it's not a pleasant scenario. And I just, before I get into this, what I want to talk about and then go to the phones, I just want to tell you one thing. I was saying to my wife last night, I just wish I could get it across to people. I just wish people would understand that there has never been an upside in this for me. And I just ask you to consider this. When I was talking about this 2 years ago, the ratings started to go down because people don't want to hear this. Then the ratings started to go up when it started to happen because they're like, uh-oh, wait a minute, what did he say? There's no upside. If I'm right, I'm not going to be on the radio. If I'm right, I don't know how to, if I'm right, I believe we are entering such dangerous times that people like me will go to jail. If I am wrong, do I have credibility with you? Other than I will tell you the truth as I see it. So there's no real upside here for me. And I tell you that because I may come to you in a year from now or 2 years from now and say, I was wrong. I hope you know that I did my homework and I tried my best, but I got it wrong. But I know what that means. Nobody does that. The only reason why I tell you this is because it's what I really truly believe, and I truly believe we're in danger. But I also truly believe if we get into the lifeboat, we can rebuild a better boat. We're standing on the bridge of the Titanic, and some are still in the bar saying, oh, well, it's never going to sink. Well, it could sink. I read a story about the guy who was he was like one of the chief economists for Lenin and Stalin. And, he came out and he said, this capitalism thing, I might have had this whole thing wrong. I think that it doesn't destroy itself. It just burns down the forest. It just burns itself down, and then it regenerates and comes back. And I think it will have a depression about every 50 years. Well, he was killed for that opinion, and, first he was made a slave in the gulags, but then he was eventually killed. So I really, truly believe if we just let it burn down, we can regenerate, because the secret of our system is the people. But the people have got to understand who we are. This is why I've been begging you to read 5,000-Year Leap, and if you have a copy of it, please give it to a friend. Read it. Have your friends read it. They have to know who we are. Right now, there's a growing trend in this country of people saying, well, I don't know. What's wrong with socialism? What's wrong with socialism? It doesn't work. It's not the system that we have used up until really the last 50 or 75 years. It doesn't work. And now we're entering territory where we are nationalizing the banks. I don't know if you saw this in Venezuela, but in Venezuela over the weekend, they've removed the 2-term limit. See, Venezuelans learned their lesson, and they learned the lesson that we learned, which is weird. You remember that president that everybody loved, that everybody thought was so great, that he could do no wrong? Remember him, FDR, the one that our president is modeling himself after? It's weird that his own party that had crippling control, his own party turned against him after his death and said, immediately after his death, and said, let's change the Constitution. Let's make sure that never happens again. Shouldn't that be a tip-off that maybe everything wasn't all sunshine and lollipops with the New Deal and FDR? Isn't that kind of a big thing? Jeez. So something doesn't work here in the history that we've been reading. So anyway, the Venezuelans learned the same thing. They had a 2-term limit. And Chavez has been trying to get that changed. Well, he finally got it changed. He got it changed yesterday. But he did it by pulling out all of the stops. But listen to what Chavez has done. Remember, Chavez, loved by the left in this country, just as Mussolini was. Loved, because he'll make the hard decisions. He'll help the poor. He'll make sure everybody has health care. How does he do it? Well, first, he just takes the money that the rich have and he just gives it to the poor. And then he starts universal health care. And then he starts gigantic welfare reforms. And he does that until he can guarantee his next election. And then after the next election, then he starts in even deeper. And he starts to redistrict. He starts to do different things, try to pull things together. He starts, campaigns of hate to make sure that if you don't vote for Hugo Chavez, well, you're part of the problem. And he's got his goons out there, and they have another election. And now they change it. But they only change that law after he has silenced the dissent on the other side, until he has either arrested or he has shut down television and radio broadcasters that disagreed with him. If they got too much influence, if they spoke out against him, they were either killed, arrested, or shut down. Your pick. If you wouldn't play ball with him on the economy, and you wouldn't play ball with his version of the unions and socialist ideas, well then he would just nationalize your industry. Start with the banks. Let's nationalize the banks. Then nationalize industry and nationalize oil, just like we're nationalizing our banks, and now we're getting ready to nationalize GM and Chrysler and everybody else. We will nationalize this country. And then, at the same time, we're also doing universal health care that was in the stimulus package. In the TARP, we also said to the banks, if you take $1, you're not going to be able to speak out against the labor unions. Oh, and we're moving the census from the Commerce Department to the White House to help with redistricting, to help with the distribution of money, and to help with the Electoral College. I'm not saying that Barack Obama is Chavez, but gosh, when does the road split?